Part 1. The Old Shack in Cypress Hollow. You ever taken a wrong turn into a place that feels like time forgot it? Somewhere so quiet, so still, it feels like even the trees are listening? That's what happened to Mark. He was just trying to find a fishing spot a local had told him about. What he found instead was a place you wouldn't dare speak of out loud. A place in the backwoods of Georgia, where even the air felt cursed. And what happened to him that day? It'll make you think twice before leaving the city behind. Mark was a software engineer from Atlanta, burnout, divorced, and running from the noise of his life. When his coworker mentioned a hidden fishing spot out in Cypress Hollow, just south of Macon, he jumped at the chance for solitude. No reception, no traffic, just the woods and the water, they said. It sounded like heaven. The drive started out normal, but as the roads narrowed into gravel and gravel became dirt, he realized he hadn't passed another car in over an hour. His GPS gave up somewhere past Route 17. Still, the directions seemed clear enough. Take a left at the bent oak, then follow the trail till you hear water. The bent oak appeared just as described, leaning like it was whispering secrets to the forest floor. Mark turned, tires crunching over twigs and leaves. The deeper he went, the thicker the trees became, growing close and crooked, as if they didn't want him there. He drove for another 10 minutes until the road vanished altogether. The car rolled to a stop in front of a clearing, and there it was. Not the river, not a lake, but a shack. Old, graying wood, partially swallowed by vines, roof caved in on one side. No signs of life. No signs of death either, but something in Mark's gut clenched. He checked his phone. No bars. Of course. Still, curiosity tugged at him. He stepped out, the air warm and sticky, buzzing faintly with the drone of cicadas. The trees felt closer now, like they had shifted while he wasn't looking. The shack stood slouched, as if hiding from the sky. Its windows were broken, the front door barely hanging. He stepped inside, brushing past cobwebs, his boots creaking on warped wooden planks. It smelled like damp wood and something else, sour and metallic. Inside, there wasn't much. A broken table, a rusted stove, a chair lying sideways. But what caught Mark's eye was a photograph, still in its frame, lying on the floor. He picked it up. For people, 2 men, a woman, and a little girl stood outside that very shack. Their smiles looked forced, stretched too wide. The little girl's eyes, in particular, were striking. Not in a sweet way. In an unsettling, glassy, watching you way. As he stared, he heard movement, soft thumps from above. He froze. His eyes drifted to the sagging ceiling. Another thump. Bird? Raccoon? He stepped outside quickly, nerves buzzing now. He'd had his fill of exploring. That's when he saw them. Footprints. In the mud. Leading around the shack. Barefoot. Small. Childlike. They weren't there when he arrived. Heart racing, he circled around the back, following them. They led to an overgrown trail snaking deeper into the woods. Then he heard it. A laugh. A little girl's laugh, sharp and distant. It echoed once, then vanished like smoke. Nope, he muttered, turning back toward his car. He slid behind the wheel, locked the doors, and twisted the key. Nothing. The engine gave a click, then silence. Again. Click. Then just the sound of the woods. He slammed his hand on the steering wheel. Sweat prickled his skin. He popped the hood, got out, and checked. The battery cables were gone. Just gone. As if they'd never existed. And the forest had gone quiet. No birds. No wind. Not even the cicadas. He looked up and saw her. The girl from the photo. Standing at the tree line. Barefoot, dressed dirty, blonde hair hanging in ropes. He blinked, and she was gone. Mark ran. He didn't know where. Just away. Away from the shack, the girl, the silence. He tore through the trees, branches clawing at his arms. Roots grabbed at his ankles. His breath came ragged, lungs burning. Then the forest opened, and he stumbled into a clearing with a stone well in the center. His legs gave out, and he collapsed beside it, gasping. That's when he heard it again. The laugh. Closer this time. He looked down into the well, and saw two eyes staring back up. Not glowing, not dramatic, just human. Wide, unblinking, watching. Then they blinked.
And vanished.
Mark scrambled back just as a whisper floated up. Found you. He sprinted again, now wildly crashing through trees and brush, skin torn, shirt soaked in sweat and blood. The woods felt endless. Then suddenly he was back. The shack in front of him. Impossible. He had run straight, never turned.
How?
But there it was. And the car. Still sitting.
Still dead.
He screamed in frustration. The girl stepped from behind the shack. This time, she spoke. You're not supposed to leave, she said calmly. Mark backed away. Stay the hell back. She tilted her head, confused. They always come looking, she whispered. But they never want to stay. That's why I show them.
So they see.
So they remember. He turned to run again.
But the trees had changed.
A wall of them, thick and unnatural, now boxed the clearing in.
She was closer now.
Stay. With me. He saw movement behind her. The figures from the photo, Mom, Dad, the other man, now standing just beyond the trees. Pale, still, faces sagging as if melting. Their eyes were hollow. And they watched him. Mark grabbed a stick from the ground, holding it like a weapon. The girl smiled again, and her mouth stretched too wide, too long, far beyond what skin should allow. I'll show you the river now, she said. The world tilted. Everything spun. And he blacked out. Mark woke up at dusk, lying on the hood of his car. It started on the first try. He drove. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until he reached the city. He never spoke of what happened. But sometimes at night, when his apartment goes still,
he hears it again.
The laugh. And in reflections, mirrors, windows, even puddles, he sees her. Still barefoot. Still watching. Part 2. The silence beyond Miller's Creek. Some people crave the quiet. They dream of leaving behind the hum of city life for the peace of untouched wilderness. But there's a silence out there, a silence that isn't empty. It watches. It waits. And once you hear it for what it really is, you never come back the same. This is what happened to Trevor and his girlfriend Lena. They thought they'd spend a weekend camping by Miller's Creek. But in the backwoods of Tennessee, they discovered a silence that didn't just surround them. It swallowed them. Trevor had grown up in the suburbs of Knoxville, close enough to the mountains to appreciate nature, but far enough to never truly feel alone. Lena, on the other hand, was a city girl, born and raised in downtown Memphis. But she loved Trevor, and when he suggested a romantic weekend away, just the two of them and the stars, she agreed. They borrowed his uncle's camper van and drove 3 hours northeast, toward an unmarked trail near Miller's Creek. The directions were handwritten on a slip of paper, passed down through Trevor's family. Best trout in the state, his uncle had said, slapping him on the back. Just watch the weather. And don't go too far upstream after dark. The warning didn't faze them. They arrived on a Friday afternoon. The forest was breathtaking, towering pines, the soft rush of the creek, and the rich smell of moss and earth. They set up near the water, cooked over a campfire, and slept under the stars. It was perfect. Until the second night. They had hiked upstream that day, deeper into the woods. Lena took photos, ferns, mushrooms, a deer crossing the creek. They laughed and kissed beneath a mossy overhang. But when they turned to head back, the trail was wrong. It curved left where it should have curved right. Trees looked unfamiliar. The creek sounded farther away. Trevor frowned. We didn't walk this far, did we? They retraced their steps, but everything blurred together. No trail markers, no familiar landmarks. Just trees. Endless trees. By dusk, the forest had gone unnaturally quiet. No wind. No birds. No insects. Just stillness. That's when Lena noticed something. Do you hear that? She whispered. Trevor paused. I don't hear anything. No, that's the point. She was right. It wasn't just quiet, it was silent. Total, crushing silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums, makes you feel like you've gone deaf. No rustling, no breathing. Just void. Trevor reached for his phone. No signal. They quickened their pace. Trees creaked, but no wind moved them. Then they passed something strange, a ring of stones in the dirt. Not natural.
Placed.
Inside the ring, bones. Small ones. Squirrel? Rabbit? And in the center, a child's shoe. Lena stopped walking. This isn't right, she said. Trevor, this is... A whisper cut her off. Right behind them. Just one word. Stay. They spun around. No one. They ran. Branches slapped their faces. The creek roared in their ears, but that was impossible. The silence had returned, swallowing all sound. Then Trevor saw it. The camper van. Just through the trees.
He shouted.
Lena shouted too. They burst into the clearing and stopped dead. It wasn't their van. It was older, covered in moss. The windows cracked, the tires sunk halfway into the earth. Trevor approached it, confused. That's impossible. Lena pulled him back. We need to leave.
Now.
Behind them, they heard it again. But this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was breathing. Deep, guttural, slow breathing. Trevor turned slowly. At the edge of the clearing, where the forest met the dark, something stood. Not quite human. Too tall. Shoulders hunched. Skin like wet bark. Its eyes reflected no light. It didn't move. Trevor grabbed Lena's hand, and they backed away. The thing took one step forward. Then another. Each step silent. Until Lena screamed, and they ran again. This time, the forest was different.
Wrong.
The trees were twisted, roots like fingers grabbing. They tripped, fell, scrambled. And then...
Light.
Real light. Their van. It was there. Actually there this time. Trevor didn't question it. They dove in, slammed the doors, and he turned the ignition. It started. As they peeled out, Lena looked back through the window. The figure stood at the edge of the tree line, unmoving. But just before they turned the corner, she saw it raise one hand and wave. Back in the city, they tried to forget. But Lena can't sleep in silence anymore. She needs noise, TV, music, even a fan, because when it's too quiet, she hears breathing. And Trevor? He hasn't gone near the woods since. He says the silence followed him back. Sometimes, he wakes up with dirt under his fingernails. And once, just once, he found a stone in his shoe. Perfectly smooth. Perfectly round. Just like the ones they found in the forest circle. Part 3. Cabin 6 doesn't exist, but I stayed there anyway. Most weekend travelers who explore the backwoods just want to disconnect. No phones, no traffic, no noise. But when the world disappears around you, and you're left with something unnatural, that peace turns into a trap. Landon was a solo backpacker, careful, experienced, and always prepared. But nothing could have prepared him for Cabin 6. Because according to the lodge, it doesn't exist. But he has the photos. And the scars. Landon was the kind of guy who planned his trips 3 months in advance, with laminated maps and backup power banks. He'd explored parts of Oregon and Wyoming most people couldn't point to on a map. So when he read online about an isolated hiking trail near the Smoky Mountains that ended at a rustic lodge called Birch Hollow Retreat, he was hooked. Minimal traffic. No cell service. Dozens of positive, but vague, reviews. Most mentioned clean air, spiritual peace, and one odd phrase that popped up more than once. Avoid Cabin 6. At first, he thought it was some inside joke. A local myth. But when he arrived, things felt off. The check-in building was small and tidy. The elderly man behind the desk smiled too widely. His name tag read Walter, but he didn't offer a handshake. I've got you down for Cabin 4, he said. Landon, who had specifically requested Cabin 2, raised an eyebrow. Cabin 2's being sprayed. Wasn't safe. Walter explained too quickly. Cabin 4's got the same view. Landon nodded slowly. Out of curiosity, what's up with Cabin 6? The reviews. There is no Cabin 6, Walter said, his smile never breaking. Just 1 through 5. That night, Landon followed the gravel path with his flashlight. The air was damp and heavy. Cabin 4 was cozy enough, wooden frame, firewood stacked neatly outside. But across the clearing, maybe 100 yards away, he saw another structure. Unmarked. No lights. His curiosity got the better of him. He crept across the grass, crunching twigs beneath his boots. The air changed as he approached, cooler.
Still.
The cabin wasn't abandoned. It looked used. Recently. A muddy boot print on the step. A curtain slightly drawn. And above the doorframe, faintly carved into the wood. 6. He felt a chill but tried the knob. Unlocked. The door groaned open. Inside was pitch black. He flicked on his flashlight. It wasn't just a cabin, it was a room that didn't match its size from the outside. Too large, the ceiling too high. Almost like it shifted as he moved. There was a single chair in the middle of the room, facing away from him. Then, it creaked.
Moved slightly.
Landon froze. "Hello," he called, his voice too loud in the still air. Nothing.
He took a step back.
And the chair turned slowly, as if nudged. But there was no one there. He turned to leave, and heard footsteps on the wooden floor behind him.
Fast.
Panicked, he ran out and slammed the door shut. Back in his cabin, he barely slept. The next morning, when he tried to bring it up to Walter, the man's expression darkened. "You didn't go over there, did you?" Landon nodded slowly. Someone was inside. Walter sighed and motioned him inside the lodge office. "I shouldn't say this," he muttered, locking the door behind them. "But that cabin's not supposed to be here anymore. It burned down. Years ago." Landon blinked. "What?" "We had a guest," Walter said, voice low. "Girl came up alone. Booked cabin 6. Back then, it was on the list." He paused, choosing his words. "She never left. When we checked in on her, the inside was wrong. Too big. No windows. We burned it down. But the next spring, it was just there again. Like it rebuilt itself." Landon stared at him. "Why not tear it down again?" "We tried. People went missing. Now we just pretend it's not there." Walter slid him a key. "Take cabin 1 tonight. It's closer to the staff lodge." Landon agreed. But that night, he couldn't sleep. Around 1 a.m., the air shifted. Colder. He got up and looked out the window. Across the dark lawn, cabin SX's door was open. Light spilled out. And on the porch,
The chair.
facing his cabin. Empty. He blinked. And the chair was now facing away. He stepped back from the glass, breath catching. Then he heard the creak of his own door behind him.
Slow.
Wooden. Hinges straining. He turned. No one. The room was dark, the fireplace embers glowing. But on the floor, a boot print.
Wet.
Muddy.
Fresh.
He slammed the door, locked it, and didn't sleep again. At sunrise, he bolted to the main lodge, threw his keys on the desk, and drove. He didn't stop until he hit a gas station with signal. He looked through his photos, he always took dozens. But cabin 6? Every photo of it was corrupted, glitched out. Except one. The first. A shot of it from the tree line. Only now, as he stared at it, he realized something. In the window, behind the curtain, a pale face watched him. Back in the city, Landon shares his story on hiking forums. Most dismiss it as fiction, but some know better. Every few months, a user will comment with just one word. 6. And sometimes, when Landon checks his phone in the dead of night, the battery's drained and a single photo appears in his gallery. A chair. On a porch. Facing him. Part 4. The backwoods town that pretended I belonged there. You ever take a wrong turn, end up somewhere strange, and feel eyes on you? Sometimes, it's just paranoia. Other times, it's because you weren't supposed to leave. Eric didn't plan to stay in the town of Greystone. He was just passing through. But the town had other plans. Because in Greystone, once you're part of them, you're never really a stranger again. Eric was doing what he did every fall, chasing foliage across back roads in his rusty van, his camera ready to capture orange-gold peaks and forest trails. He had no set plan, just an urge to escape the city noise. That's what made him ignore the low fuel warning. That's what made him take that left turn on an unmarked dirt road. That's what brought him to Greystone. The trees thinned, and suddenly there it was, a small town like a painting. White picket fences, brick sidewalks, and gas lamps flickering in the morning haze. No cell service. No maps. But it didn't feel abandoned. It felt watched. He found a general store and parked. Inside, it was quiet. A woman at the counter looked up, smiling warmly. "You made it," she said. Eric blinked. Sorry. "You're early," she added, setting down a paper bag. "For your stay. Room 3's ready." "I'm not," he began, but she handed him a key before he could finish. The tag read 3. Confused but too tired to argue, he thanked her and stepped back out. People were gathering now, smiling, nodding at him like he was a neighbor returning from a trip. A child waved. A man tipped his hat. Room 3 was in a block away. Clean sheets. Hot water. A wood-framed bed. He lay down. Just for a minute. He woke up 8 hours later. Dusk had settled. The town was quiet. Not silent, just too quiet. He walked outside and noticed something odd. The trees. They were closer. Not just near the town. They were pressing in. Like the woods had grown while he slept. He returned to the general store, intent on asking questions. But the door was locked. And the woman from before? She was now standing behind the counter, inside a dark, empty store. Unmoving. Watching. He knocked. She didn't blink. He backed away, heart pounding. "I need to leave," he muttered, heading for his van. But his van
Was gone.
In its place stood a familiar pickup truck. From town. One he'd passed earlier. On the windshield was a sticky note. "Stay." Eric panicked. He ran to the edge of town, only to find the road vanished, swallowed by trees that didn't look like they belonged to any forest he'd seen before. They bent in unnatural ways, with bark too smooth and leaves that whispered in a language that hurt his ears. A teenage boy appeared from behind a tree. "Don't fight it," the boy said. "It's worse when you fight it." "Where the hell am I?" Eric demanded. The boy only repeated, "Don't fight it." The next morning, the innkeeper greeted him with eggs and toast. "No more wandering," she said gently, placing the tray down. "The woods don't like it." Eric stared at her. "How long have I been here?" She blinked. "As long as you've needed." Day 4. Eric found a town ledger in the old church.
Names. Lots of them.
All with dates. And next to his name, because it was there, was no date at all. Just a blank space. He tried to scream, but when he opened his mouth, no sound came out. The town was taking him piece by piece. His memories grew fuzzy. His hands ached like they were learning new motions. When he looked in the mirror, his face seemed unfamiliar. That night, the townspeople gathered in the square. A festival. Lights strung between trees. Laughter. Eric tried to blend in, to ask someone for help. But each person he approached just said, "Welcome home." The breaking point. Eric tried to burn room 3. He doused it in gasoline, stole in from the generator shed, and lit a match. The fire flared high. But the next morning, the room was untouched. And on the mirror, written in black soot, "Stay." He collapsed in the hallway. When he awoke, Walter, the man from the inn, was sitting beside him. "You're resisting," Walter said. "You're trapping me," Eric growled. Walter shook his head slowly. "We don't trap. We offer. You were drifting before, weren't you? No home. No roots. We gave you one." Eric stood, backing away. "I never asked for this." Walter stood too. "But you stayed. That was your choice." Eric's vision blurred. A high-pitched ringing filled his ears. The last thing he remembered was collapsing, trees spinning, faces warping into things with too many eyes. Eric woke up in a hospital bed. City sounds. Beeping machines. White walls. A nurse entered. "You were found by hikers just off the main trail. Dehydrated. Ranting about a town." Eric didn't respond. He just stared at his arms. Because etched into his forearm, burned into the skin like a brand, was the word, Greystone. Later, when he returned home, he checked the map. The area he remembered? Only wilderness. No roads. No trails. no towns. But in his dreams, he still walks those brick paths, still sees the faces. And sometimes, when he looks in the mirror, he smiles too widely and doesn't remember doing it. Part 5. You can leave the woods, but they don't leave you. You think horror only happens in stories, that you can just turn off the video and go back to normal life. But what if the stories are only warnings? 3 people walked into the backwoods, thinking they'd return the same. They didn't. And maybe you won't either. The city lights can blind us, shield us from the dark. But out there, in the deep woods, where shadows stretch too long and silence breathes, something waits. Michael, the hiker from Story 1, now lives in a basement apartment in the middle of Manhattan. He doesn't hike anymore. He doesn't even walk outside at night. Because some nights, he hears footsteps just beyond the thin window glass. And when he looks through the peephole, he sometimes sees a girl.
Pale.
Eyes sunken. Lila. Still smiling. Still mouthing his name. He never told anyone. Until one night, someone left a small totem on his doorstep. A deer skull. Split in half. Ashley, the driver from Story 2, never made it to her destination. She stopped talking to her parents, left her job, moved across the country, and changed her name. But some mornings, when she's brushing her teeth, she swears she hears a voice behind her, soft, raspy, low. Wrong turn. Sometimes she turns off her car radio, but it keeps playing. Always that same old country song. The one she first heard on that cursed stretch of road. And once, just once, she saw the same gas station in a dream. Except this time it was burning. And a man inside was staring out, mouth moving silently, as flames danced behind him. He looked like her. Exactly like her. Eric, the wanderer from Story 3, has been missing for 2 weeks. After waking from what doctors called a trauma-induced hallucination, he went silent. Bought a map. Bought camping gear. Vanished into the same stretch of woods. He left one note. I need to know if it was real. If I belong there. Maybe I still do. No one's heard from him since. But on a recent drone flight over the area, hikers reported spotting a clearing. In the center of a small town. Not marked on any map. Not visible from any road. And when authorities returned to investigate, there was nothing. Except a single key. Room 3. 3 stories. 3 souls touched by something ancient, hidden in the folds of forgotten forests. What connects them? Was it coincidence? Or something much deeper? In every case, the woods didn't attack them. They invited them. Offered them something they didn't know they needed. A place to belong. A purpose. An end. The woods don't chase you. They just wait for you to come back. And the next time you take a wrong turn or your GPS glitches, or you blink and the forest seems closer than it should be, just ask yourself, do you still remember the way home? Because some roads are one way only. And the woods never forget your name. They say the city never sleeps. But out there in the backwoods, it's the forest that's always awake. Watching. Waiting. For you.